My name is Jeff Mccaffrey. We're with FlatlineTV, and we're at the historic Santa Monica Ingots restaurant. And I'm here with Stanley Lloyd Kaufman, who's famous for Troma films such as The Toxic Avenger, Poultrygeist, and Class of Nuke Em High. Hello, Mr. Kaufman. I'm glad you're here.
This is great. This is a restaurant landmark, FlatlineTV. Won't be long before Uncle Lloydie will be flatlining.
Currently, Troma films have kind of pushed the envelope as far as political correctness on a lot of the content, you know, coming up in the 42 years that you guys have been around. Now, how does that, in today's world, affect some of the films or the creativity? Has there been any kind of censorship or anything that you've been told no on?
There's economic blacklisting. There's censorship in this country. It's called economic blacklisting. Unless you're with Rupert Murdoch or a vassal of one of the devil-worshipping international media conglomerates, you are in fact 100% censored because you can't get to the audience. So there is indeed censorship, but it's economic.
Do you feel that the Troma audience is kind of opened their eyes to some of the censorship out there, and you know, we have a better understanding of what the the film the contents are, or a little bit more liberated as far as what the film content is?
The Troma fans are very smart. They're poor. Most of them don't have money, and they're young, but they're wise and they're thinkers and they're smart. They also have to work hard to find our movies because, as I say, if you are an independent artist in this country or in any country, you are going to be swamped by either the mainstream or the governments. Fascist governments like China and Russia and others are corrupt, and there is no copyright law. Africa, most of the world does not respect copyright or freedom of speech. So if you don't have copyright and you don't have freedom of speech, pretty hard to be an artist and eat. You can do other things, I suppose, and that may be the way to do it in this country, because we don't have free speech anymore, not with all the snowflakes and the left-wing people beating people up and the right-wing beating people up and the Oxbow incident every 2 minutes. So it's very hard to be an independent artist, and if you're with the vassals of the establishment, you're going to be making baby food. It may be entertaining baby food, but you know, even that great stuff on Netflix and Amazon.com, most of it is very entertaining and may have a few four-letter words, but it isn't going to change the world the way The Toxic Avenger changed the world, or Class of Nuke Em High, or Squeeze Play, right? It's not. They aren't seminal movies. Right? The motorcycle movie in 1969 with Peter Fonda. That was a seminal movie. What the hell was the name of that movie? Easy Rider. That was a seminal movie. That changed the world. Gone with the Wind changed the world. Rocky changed the world. But most of these things are kind of playing it safe, you know, and they're great. I mean, God bless Netflix. It's thanks to Netflix we've got competition among the mainstream, so they're trying to make at least stuff that isn't totally baby food.
I understand you were a producer for Rocky. Is that correct?
Troma produced the Rocky footage that was done in Philadelphia. The John G. Avildsen. I worked for him on Cry Uncle. And we had a non-union crew. Cry Uncle is distributed by Troma. And if you go to the Troma YouTube channel, you can see all our movies for free. All the movies we made during our first 40 years are slowly being put up on YouTube. Troma movies on YouTube. And it's all free. If you subscribe, you get an email every week telling you what additional content. There are about 400 movies there now, and every week something additional, or make your own damn movie lessons. Their documentary, the making of Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, feature-length documentary called Poultry in Motion, if you're a film student. So there's a lot of free content there, and every week you should subscribe because it's free, and you get an email every week.
Going back to the Toxic Avenger, Toxie has become a staple as far as Troma goes, becoming your mascot. What was the inspiration behind the Toxic Avenger and some of your later films?
Well, all of the films that we have made at Troma over the 44 years concern the people of Tromaville who are underdogs. Tromaville, New Jersey is the underdog. New Jersey is the underdog, living in the shadow of the big, arrogant New York City. But within Tromaville, there are underdogs. So Return to Nuke Em High, a.k.a. Volume 2. It's about a lesbianic high school couple who have to change the world. They have to save the world from domination by a cartel of evil conglomerates. There's a labor elite, the bureaucratic elite, and the corporate elite. And they conspire to suck dry the little people of Tromaville of their economic and spiritual capital. So in the case of Return to Nuke Em High, it's these two young lesbianic lovers who have to battle the bullies and battle the corruption and battle the economic conspiracy of the labor, bureaucratic, and corporate elites.
What is one of your favorite projects that you've ever worked on?
Well, all the movies that I've written and directed, like all Troma movies, comes from the newspapers. And when my wife and I were camping in the old days, we'd find garbage everywhere, and it wasn't biodegradable. So then I started reading about the environment. This back in 1982, long before Al Gore said he discovered the internet and got it and stole the Nobel Peace Prize. It's before that. We were under the environment before it became the flavor of the day. Class of Nuke Em High is all about the nuclear power plant that was built next door to New York City. No, this was called Shoreham. It never got turned on because it was they had drunk labor, they had crappy materials. With all the money they were going to make with this nuclear power plant, they still had the labor elite, the bureaucratic elite, and the corporate elites were lining their pockets additionally by buying cheap cement and shit materials, right? It's a nuclear power plant right down the line from New York. So that inspired the class of Nuke Em High. Poultrygeist, of course, was a scribe against the fast food industry that has poisoned a whole generation of young people. And all the movies we make really have one foot in very serious either sociological or political issues.
Now, is there a project that you felt like you could have done better with, or that you felt needs revamping?
I think we could have done better with all our movies, but we have very small budgets, and they're a little rough around the edges. But I'm a big fan of Bertolt Brecht and Thornton Wilder and Andy Warhol, who broke the fourth wall and let you look backstage a little bit. And Troma movies make eye contact with the audience. The actors very often talk to the audience. And the fact that you can see backstage because our movies are very rough around the edges. And the CGI, the first movie I've used CGI is in fact Return to Nuke Em High, a.k.a. Volume 2. But I've done it in a very, very breaking the fourth wall way. It's telling the audience this is abstract art. We're not trying to make a realistic explosion here, or we're not trying to, like Dunkirk, have a boring thing with 5 billion soldiers that are CGI'd, or Woody Allen's movie that has very realistic, wonderful CGI of Coney Island. Our CGI is beautiful to look at. It's like looking at an abstract painting, and it breaks the fourth wall. It says to the audience, "Here, watch a short experimental movie," while the Kevin the Wonder Duck gets dumped in a vat of toxic chemical taco mix, taco fillings, look at this interesting abstract transformation that Kevin the Wonder Duck's going to do. You've never seen anything like it. It's totally original. And again, we can't afford to compete on the $200 million level. So we do it in a way that they'll probably be copying. They'll probably be, look at Deadpool. They didn't copy us, but they love Troma, right? Deadpool, those directors clearly love Toxic Avenger. I'm sure they talk about it. I don't know them, but James Gunn certainly has been influenced by Troma, and Trey Parker and Matt Stone came out of Troma, and they had Toxic Avenger parties when they were in college, and they made Cannibal the Musical, which is one of Troma's most famous movies. Nobody would take it either. They took it to us first, and we said, well, we love the movie, but we can't give you all this money. Why don't you go to the companies that have money? And they did, and but nobody got it. And it was only, it wasn't finished either. So we helped them finish the movie. We had them do the first scene, which is a very Troma-esque kind of Monty Python cartoon violence type thing. And when they finished the movie, they brought it to they brought it to us. We helped them finish the movie, and suddenly very successful, and helped them get the South Park gig. Right? They could take our video cassette box. Troma's label is famous, and they could dance around Hollywood with it. And they also made a pilot of South Park, something about if Jesus is fighting Satan or something. They sent that around, but I think what gave them credence is they had a real release from Troma. And the video box, they could show it to, look, this is real. Right? And the idiots in the mainstream didn't get it.
But speaking of kind of on the edge films we were talking about just a little bit ago, The Toxic Avenger was probably one of the only ones out of mainstream media that actually made it to prime time and marketed to kids with the cartoon and with the toys and whatnot. Now, a lot of the cartoons that we have out now are geared towards adults, via Comedy Central and even on Adult Swim. Is there possibly a return for Toxic Avenger, or would it be, something that a future project or something like that to market to those people who have that underground love for the character?
Well, that's a very good question. The cartoons, the Toxic Crusader cartoons, are all free on Troma Movies on YouTube, so you can revisit them. And the Toxic Avenger, I think, is the only superhuman hero that has been in every single medium, everything. Comic books, cartoons, clothing, movies, Broadway musical, a musical that played in the West End of London, written by David Bryan from Bon Jovi. I don't think any other superheroes we have the trifecta. We've got the royal flush of every possible medium, so it's pretty interesting. And of course, James Gunn, with his Guardians of the Galaxy, made a big speech when I was on the set. There were about 3,000 people there, and he said that he channels Lloyd Kaufman, even though he's making $200 million movies, that he thinks about how responsible a producer I am. And even though on the set I'm directing, but yet I'm also thinking about functioning production, the actual nuts and bolts of the production. That's what you have to be responsible if you're going to be a director, and you can't go on an ego trip and make the budget go crazy and all that. And James is very responsible and obviously a brilliant talent.
Now, we've seen a lot of his stuff that has come out, and especially with Romeo and Juliet, he had his start with that. And then, you also had a cameo in Guardians, so you can see there's a big respect for your work, in his. He's a very well-spoken man, just in, a lot of different medias, even on his Twitter feed and whatnot. But he does speak very highly of his work, and he appreciates creativity. So I can see where, he would owe that to you, because for a lot of your directors, they can't really say because of the big budget studios that they work for, but they envy that kind of creativity and liberalness that you have with your films. Now, speaking of, being able to go on cameos and whatnot, you had a lot of cameos that you do for a lot of different films or whatnot. What has been your favorite cameo so far?
Well, probably my favorite is my portrayal of the drunken bum in Rocky. Because Rocky is really one of the all-time greatest movies. I mean, it's up there with Gone with the Wind and all that stuff. And we, Troma, produced the Philadelphia sequences in Rocky. All that stuff with Rocky running up and down the stairs, and the fruit market, and the pet store, and the butcher when he's punching the dead cows and the carcasses. We took care of all that because they didn't have enough money. The producers didn't have enough money to shoot the whole film on location with the fucking union hacks. So they kind of sneakily had us shoot for them in Philadelphia. We used the Cry Uncle non-union crew that had just done John Avildsen's Cry Uncle, which Troma still distributes. Very low budget movie. But I was there with a guy from the government of Philadelphia. We found all the locations, and then we brought they all flew in the stars, Stallone and Talia Shire and Burgess and the producers, and Avildsen, of course. And if you go to the when Avildsen got the Oscar for best movie, he thanked me. Which usually these fuckers thank the rich people, Go through the Oscar ceremonies, every fucking one of these people. I would love to thank Harvey Weinstein and kiss his ass. And, right? They usually kiss ass the heads of the studios. And how many of them thanked Harvey Weinstein? Knowing what he did, too. Right? Knowing what he did. That's what Sundance is all about. Sundance has been 30 years of the worship of Harvey Weinstein and the values that pertain to Harvey Weinstein. That's the Sundance Film Festival in my book, full of perversion and slime and shit. Is this is it all right? Okay, good. Okay, sorry, we were up till 3 a.m. this morning at the after party for Return to Nuke Em High was at the Club Cobra, which is near Lemley's NoHo 7, and it went on. I was there till the commissioner and I were there till over after 3 o'clock. So I shouldn't have said those bad words, but I'm glad you don't mind.
No, we definitely don't. We want you to speak your mind and be able to say the things you need to say. As we wrap it up, right now, is there a dream project that you have? I mean, we know you have your creativity and the liberalness with your films to kind of be able to do what you want. Now, is there something that you still haven't hit upon yet?
Well, we're preparing now. I'm going back to Shakespeare. We made Romeo and Juliet, and that James Gunn wrote that. And if you recall, also, I love Shakespeare, and The Tempest is my favorite Shakespeare play. So we are going to. Well, it was his last one. Yeah. Well, it's very Troma. It's got a monster, and there's all sorts of magic and dreams and weird stuff in it. And so we've adapted it. We've got a pretty decent draft now. We're looking for locations. Shakespeare's Shitstorm is the name of the tribute to The Tempest. And I will play Prospero, and it should be a very interesting movie. It could be my last. Who knows? I could drop dead I could drop dead right here at Ingo's. Ingo's. Yeah, Ingo's here.
Well, definitely we hope not, because there's a lot of projects, and we know you still have coming out, and we want to see the fans definitely need to keep Lloyd Kaufman out there, and the Troma name out there, and especially with a lot of the directors out there still praising your name, whether the big companies allow them or not, they're still praising your name because of your creativity and your refusal to back down to anybody's censorship. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming out here, and on behalf of Flatline TV, we really thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And the main reason that Troma has stayed has remained as the oldest, longest-running independent movie studio in history is because of our fans. Our fans go out and get our theaters. it's the fans who go to the theaters all over the country and say, I want you, Mr. Manager, to play Return to Nuke Em High, aka Volume 2. So out there, fans of Flatline, please tell your local movie theater to book to take Return to Nuke Em High, aka Volume 2. In many cases, I can actually travel there because I'm based in New York and I go to Los Angeles once a month, and I can always stop off. And I usually go to about 20 of the. If I direct a movie, it gets into about 200 independent cinemas, and I can go to about 20 of them. So. Our fans do everything for us. They drove. I'm going to talk to a special effects guy named Eric Fox in Riverside. He does a lot of big movies out here and also the Sharknado type stuff. But he does the big ones and a lot of animatronics. Eric Fox. He's in Riverside, so I got a fan. I don't want to pay an Uber. It'll cost me $200, $300. So a fan is going to drive the commissioner and me there, and. The fans really, people think Troma's this huge, successful company. We're hanging on by a straw. There's a thread. It's our fans who keep it going. They work for us. They promote us. They give us money on Kickstarter. They act in our movies. They do everything. Troma is really fan fueled, and we have word of mouth. That's the two secret ingredients. We have a lot of fans who work for us and who are clever and can find our movies because we don't have any money to advertise, and we have the word of mouth. So that a movie like Terror Firmer, which was made in 1999, which was not successful originally because nobody knew about it, and it's a very crazy movie, but it's an excellent movie about making movies, and I play a blind director in it. Terror Firmer. Now it's just we can't keep it in stock. I mean, people suddenly, because of the word of mouth, Terror Firmer is it's unbelievable. We can't. It's our store. We have an online store, TromaDirect.com. TromaDirect.com. They keep having to reorder these things 1,000 at a time.
We'll definitely have to. I have to say that even our fans were excited. Just at the prospect that we teased that we were going to interview you. So. They were very excited, and we appreciate you guys tuning in to be able to see this interview and whatnot. But in closing, we'd kind of like to thank Ingot's restaurant, James, the manager, Sean, the assistant manager, and the staff here for having us and hosting us here.
I think it's Ingot's. It's Ingo's. Ingo. It's a landmark. It's a famous place.
It is very.
Yeah. Keep going though, but it's Ingo's.
So from Ingo's here at Santa Monica, I'm Jeff Mccaffrey, FlatlineTV, keeping your finger on the pulse of horror.